So we're proud of that, but also we have stepped in the shoes of giants before us, and one of that is certainly Katy. So we wanted to show how the VODAN, we have started now to call it more of a platform of resources, how that relates to ongoing work. Katy was on this. There are others like Anna Penzel, there are other colleagues who really had already developed very important tools and ideas of how this could be meaningfully adding as tools in our academic community. So thank you, Katy, for everything that you have done to keep us, to give us courage and to give us confidence that this was possible. And yeah, the floor is yours to show some of the platforms that you have done and to kind of give us an idea of how we look at this into the future.
Okay, thank you, Miriam, for that really nice introduction. I will try and live up to everything you just said. Yeah, so I've been involved in fair data from the beginning. I was one of the original authors of the Fair Principles paper, and I was one of the original authors because of a platform that I was already working on. Next slide, please, Alina. Called the VODAN platform, and VODAN supports systems and synthetic biologists. It's about supporting researchers with their research projects to do collaboration, dissemination, sharing. And we started back in 2008, so this was way before the FAIR principles were mooted, but of course people were talking about open science, reproducibility, data sharing. Back then it was already a very big issue, and in systems biology you have lots of different kinds of data, lots of mathematical modelling, and so it's the central issue to actually getting systems biology done. It's now a European-wide resource. We support thousands of researchers across Europe, and since being involved in FAIRdom, I've been getting involved in all sorts of other FAIR-related resources. These are some of them. Obviously, VODAN is on there. Some of these resources are to support scientists doing fundamental research. Some support scientists doing research with clinical data, and some are more on the clinical side. And every time we move into a new research community, there are different challenges to address. And of course, fair data is still a relatively new activity in the world. And so every time you start working in a new area, then there are interesting new challenges to address. Since working on FAIRdom, in recent years in Leiden, I've also been applying things that I learned in FAIRdom to a new research infrastructure in NL bioimaging, which is about bringing together the national physical hardware of bioimaging across the Netherlands, but also to improve data sharing there. And so again, this is about research data on the whole, although we do involve UMCs in that as well. And so this was more of a transference, but for some of the other activities, the types of users that we're serving are a little different. Next slide, please, Albina. And some of my colleagues from the FAIRdom project are now involved in an Elixir activity called the RDM Toolkit, and they present the problems of dealing with fair data in the context of the data lifecycle. And this is what you see here. And we can see for all of these projects that we're involved in, that we have to tackle the same kinds of issues, but in slightly different ways for slightly different users, slightly different communities. And so in the RDM Toolkit website, you can see the communities that are already represented in some way, but you can also see all of the different issues that are being tackled from a sociological point of view and a technical point of view. And I think that VODAN now is in a very good position to really address some of these issues that are already represented here, but also completely new ones. So as Samson was saying about localization, data ownership, dealing with different kinds of not research, but technical hardware for managing the data. These are problems that many other communities will face, and being able to put back all of that learning into the bigger ecosystem of fair data is very important. And now is the time to do that. And the fact that there are agreements across 88 different institutes for sharing data that are actually working is an incredible achievement all by itself. And I think just understanding how that can come about can really help other activities in similar kinds of areas. Next slide, please, Avina. And so in terms of the fair data ecosystem, VODAN has reached a really good level of fair maturity now, and there are lots of components and resources that VODAN can share with the broader research community. But also, now all of the infrastructure is set up, the whole idea of FAIR is that it's easier to interoperate and integrate with other resources. And so now is also the time to start thinking about what kinds of queries, what kinds of research we can do by combining and integrating across these different FAIR platforms. Now, we can start to do that already. Samson already explained that there are available APIs, different ways of querying from the outside. In FAIRDom Hub, we have a project called COVID Disease Maps. What would be the value right now of integrating those data sets, for example? And that's just the beginning. All of these resources are out there, they're available, and with just a bit of imagination, we can show the added value of all of these things together.
Nice, Katie.